Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about version 19.5 that's just gone live in North America. So this update brings a whole host of various updates and tweaks, some new evolutions, buffs, along with the Halloween Rare Egg Machine being released. I will not be talking about the Halloween Rare Egg Machine in this particular video because it deserves its own video to address all the new and cool stuff released there. So without further ado, let's take a look at what has been updated. So the first thing that we have available is updates to the 8-player mode PvP updates. And in addition to that, you also will notice that if you go into multiplayer, you'll see that there's a slightly twist or a change in the UI. It looks a little cleaner and a little prettier. But what has been made is that auto matching will now not kick you out of a room if you've at least been matched with someone else. And basically the idea is it prevents you like getting in a room, finding one other person, and never starting. I don't know how that's exactly going to pan out. Sometimes I feel like 8-player doesn't get that much people joining as a whole. Like oftentimes when I do 8-player, I try and do it when I stream, so I'm much more likely to find people because I encourage my viewers to play with me. But this maybe gives you a little bit better of a chance. Another thing that they've updated is that battle records will be viewable on the results screen. So it's like you get points, and this bad player clearly smashed all these other puzzle and dragoners. But basically what you can do is you can see your individual breakdown on the score screen itself. So you can see if you got like the 10,000 bonus points for having like the max combos, damage, special bonuses, etc. It's just a nice little thing to see the individual breakdown. We will now have the time remaining for if you finish the dungeon earlier than other players, when you have to wait, you can see the timer ticking down. It's nice because sometimes you're just sitting there wondering, is it going to happen or not? Or how long it will be. It's just something there. Legacy event dungeons permanently available. So basically the idea is the current Valkyrie Cup event, which you should be playing if you haven't done so already. You have 4 or so more days to do so. You could access that after the event rotates out. It's just nice because certain 8-player modes or like 8-player dungeons are more favorable to some players. Some people like TPAs, some people like rows. You get the idea. It just gives you a chance of possibly playing something you'd want to do more. There has been a slight retweak to a new active skill that'll be added that increases the attack of the designated monsters. So there are some active skills, most notably in the Halloween Rare Egg Machine, that give an attack buff for a specific card. So that one specific card or multiple specific cards will gain various benefits in terms of their attack multiplier being buffed. But there are some innate drawbacks. It will only be applied to that monster that fits the criteria, which makes sense. It can be stacked with other attack buff skills. So that means, let's say you have, say, Nautilus team. He uses his active skill to increase the damage of everyone. If you use an active skill that increases the attack of one specific card, that will stack with the Nautilus buff. It's a way to potentially allow a card who doesn't hit that hard to deal significantly more damage. Pretty cool concept overall. Another drawback or potential drawback is that it doesn't overwrite the effect of enemy skills debuffing you. So oftentimes, like, you go in a dungeon, the opposing spawn will debuff your attack. Using Nautilus's active will overwrite that attack buff. Using an active skill that buffs one specific card will not overwrite this attack buff. That specific card gets that attack bonus, so it might in turn counteract the attack debuff for that one particular card, but it does not apply to the whole team. It's not like a universal buffer. Just keep that in the back of your mind, and it'll just be displayed as an icon, just like it'll look a little cooler. The monster box size has been increased to 12,000. That's going to take you many days of watching 2 ads per day to get your box increased. It's cool. We have more box space. I'm nowhere near that 12,000 mark. Next are the new evolutions and upgrades. So we now have these huge gems. It could be huge fire gem. They come in all the different colors, and you can monster exchange for them, and they will be available in the Saturday arena after the maintenance, which is now. So this coming Saturday, it's possible for you to get these huge gems to drop. In addition to that, these huge gems are used to create new evolutions for specific cards. Unfortunately, these specific cards listed here come from a rare drop from the new alt dimension of the Mystics dungeon, which just came out, which is going to be quite difficult to clear. But let's take a look at these weapon assists anyways. So for Blue Sonia, her new weapon assist gives you 2 team health, a devil killer, and HP. Devils are quite a common spawn, so it's nice. You get bulk and damage, and the active skill is a 15-turn cooldown, which is long enough that it won't accidentally overcharge, and the effect is actually quite powerful. It's a full cleric-style active skill of Bind, Awoken Bind, Unmatchable, remove or block, and make a board of only water and dark. So, Obviously, your water and dark teams are very favorable for this type of active skill because you get to make that bicolor board, you clear all those status problems, and it unlocks the board at the same time. This can be meaningful in dungeons where you know there are multiple back-to-back spawns where you need a cleric-style active skill. An example would be on floor 3 to 4 of Shura 3. There is Heart Unmatchable floor 3, Awoken Bind floor 5. It's possible that as your inherit, because you're not going to be able to rely on this as your full cleric, you could use it to clear the Heart Unmatchable, say, on floor 3, and then use your real cleric on floor 4. Gives you a bit more options and flexibility, and this is kind of how I would imagine you utilize this weapon assist for the active skill itself, just at the very beginning of the dungeon as a solution for those bind awoken binds, and then you utilize your real cleric for the other parts of the dungeon. For Green Sonia, the exact same thing applies, except you have a god instead of a devil killer. And there are many gods found in Shura 3, so this actually could be possibly meaningful. And again, if you're a green or a dark team, you have the ability to make a board changer if that's relevant. Again, you may not necessarily need it to charge up, but again, bulk, damage, useful things overall. For Blue Odin, you get the 2-team health and Machine Killer. Machine Killers unfortunately become not so great. If this came out when Shura 1 was the hardest dungeon in the game, this would be a much more appealing weapon assist because everything's a machine in Shura 1, but now Shura 1 has become quite easy to clear. So the killer itself is not that great. The active skill is actually reasonable. You remove orb blocks and change light and hearts to water orbs, so easily able to flood the board with water orbs, and then you get +2 combos and void damage for 1 turn. The void damage for 1 turn is important because in Shura 3 and in Shura 2 and Mystic Dimensions, having damage reduction of some kind is meaningful, especially 100% damage reduction for Mystic Dimensions, where you can void out Black Albrecht's huge hit and get another 7 turns to kill him. But in Shura 2 and 3, when you hit the boss below 50%, they do like their big special attack, which tends to be enough to kill most teams. Being able to cancel the damage, or at least reduce the damage at the very least, is valuable. So this weapon assist definitely has applications there. Obviously, you want to make sure you're a water-based team or have a way to utilize those water orbs. You can, if you say, for instance, you're playing like, say, your Mojito team, which is dark, he changes green and blue to dark, and that can be helpful because now those dark, or those water orbs become dark, so it's a way to potentially utilize them. Exact same idea applies to the Red Odin weapon assist, except it has a dragon killer, which is just a better killer at this exact point in time. Same type of active skill, changing light and hearts to fire, plus combos, remove orb block, voiding damage for 1 turn. We have Ronalve getting buffs to try and be more rainbow-oriented. His active skill is a 2-turn based cooldown, which is great because you are able to inherit a much more meaningful active skill on top of it, and it gives you 2 non-wood orbs to hearts and then changes hazards to wood. I'm not a huge fan of the active skill because it's not actually addressing mechanics. It doesn't like overwrite time, RCV, or movement time buffs, time, RCV, or attack buff. It doesn't provide a buff in any of those ways. He does have strong personal damage with 3 color attribute awakenings and a 4 attribute awakening, so he can hit hard, but I don't see them actually taking the place of any other rainbow sub at this point in time, unfortunately. Ronalve, in a different evolved form, similar idea, has those 3 attribute offensive awakenings and some TPAs, but again, this active skill that's not going to solve really any problems. The damage is there, but it's just not going to be superior to other options. Again, I don't really foresee how we could truly take advantage of Ronalve, in all honesty, unless you inherit a fast charging active skill that's meaningful and you can abuse his 2-turn based cooldown. But even so, I don't think it's that magical. For their pixel form, they have a 10 combo and a VDP, so they can do large amounts of damage, but their attack stat is quite low. You make Jammer Skyfall buff, and Jammer meta is never going to really take off, I feel, at this point in time. Ronalve is not going to solve it, and like, no one wants Jammers on their board. Pancake calls them poop, so why would you want to put poop on your board? Next is Quetzalcoatl. I can't pronounce that name, but they have received quite a significant buff. They can have up to 6 skill boosts. They have 3 VDPs and 3 rows, so they're actually not a bad damage solution potentially for VDP on your mono wood teams. Not bad, and as a 10-turn cooldown, you get RCV and movement time buff. So if we really want to like stretch this extremely, Academy of Valyria also provides you with RCV and movement time buff, but this individual here, instead of giving you the board refresh, gives you damage reduction. And the damage reduction is good for Shura 2 and Shura 3 because you can tank those hits. I'm not saying that they're amazing, but at least it fulfills a modest role. Like, a buffer is nice to have. It gives you, again, 6 skill boosts, which is quite a large amount. And if you don't have Celica, it does cover red. Obviously not as great, obviously not as good as Celica or Valyria, but it's just a nice upgrade for a farmable monster. And again, those 3 VDPs will deal noticeable amounts of damage. It'll be similar output to possibly Nautilus with just a lower attack stat, unfortunately. Next is Gathering of Talents 3 through the Ultimate Descend Rush has been released. New stuff to play through. It's going to be challenging and difficult. It's just there, so be aware. Next is new achievement rewards set for Maniacs 2 arrives. That's a kind of a weird thing to say. Basically, the idea is in your achievements tab, you have the Maniacs, and now you have Maniacs 2. You can get lots of cool stuff from the achievements tab, and there's a bunch of different things you can do. Basically, as you play the game, you're going to unlock these achievements. Just go into them every once in a while, click to redeem. They don't expire, these achievements. They're there forever. Just the beginner support achievements are expiring. So, point of the matter is, you might have some free goodies waiting in your achievement folder. And then lastly for this video, I'm going to talk, well, just briefly touch that there's a new Dimension of the Mystics, the alt version. And the alt version gives you the chance to drop the blue Sonia, green Sonia, red and blue Odin gems. Unfortunately, this is Gung-Ho's extensive dungeon information, is like, here are things that can drop. No mechanics listed. But from what I'm being told or aware of, it's similar to Mystic Dimensions 1, except everything just hits harder and whatnot. And they also technically buff healer and devil type cards, so it makes it a bit easier to team build for that if you utilize those types of cards. It just gives you a bit more wiggle room overall. So, in summary, we have several new dungeons to play. We have a bunch of achievements you can redeem. We have the Halloween Rare Machine, which I'll talk about in a subsequent video, and some updates to 8-player. So as a whole, I think this is a nice update. There are just some new things to utilize and do. So with that being said, let me know what you think about this update in the comments below. Which aspect gets you more excited? And for the new evolutions and upgrades, which card gets you the most excited? With that being said, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.